fun. And today we're talking about preparing young learners for school. I apologize if you can hear a dog in the background. I can't control him, but hopefully he won't make too much noise today as we're going through. But let's take a look at what we're going through today. But first, a little bit of an introduction. Okay, just as a little bit of a way to get started in the chat box and things. This is two truths and a lie. Okay, so I'm going to make 3 statements. 2 of those statements are true, 1 of them is a lie. You just have to guess which one is the lie. Okay, so here's the 3 statements. Number 1, I have been to Canada, but I have not been to the USA. That's the first statement. Second statement is, I used to work at Burger King and I prefer it to McDonald's. Okay, and the third one is, I worked for 2 years as a beekeeper. Okay, so which one is false? Which one is false? Is it number 1, number 2, or number 3? Which one is false? What do you think? Number 2, number 3, number 2, number 2, number 3, number 2. Okay, lots of 2s and 3s. 1. Okay, let's give you another 2 or 3 seconds here. Okay, unfortunately, most of you aren't guessing correctly. I have worked at Burger King and I do prefer it to McDonald's. I did work 2 summers as a beekeeper. I have never been to either of Canada or the US, so I've not been to either of these North American countries. So there you go, that's a little bit about me. But just for a little bit of fun to get started in the chat box, but also I want to find out a little bit about you. So I'm just gonna quickly open up a poll and launch polling here. So on the screen, how long have you been teaching very young learners? So 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old students, because that's our main topic today. If you haven't been, that's fine. We'll still learn a lot of things as we go along today, hopefully. But let's just run through this. I'll give you another 15 seconds or so. We've already got almost half of people having voted, which is great. So let's see, another 5 seconds or so. Oh, we got a good mix today. Okay, so we'll pause it there. So if I share those really quickly, so about an equal mix of people who've taught 0 to 2 years, 2 to 5 years, 5+ years, and a number who haven't taught or don't teach very young learners right now. And that's fine. The one thing I just suggest, because we do have experienced people here, please do use the chat box to share your ideas as we're going. We learn from each other. Right? Part of this is bringing everybody together to learn together. So please do, contribute your comments as we're going through in the chat box. Okay, great. So I'm going to stop sharing there, close that one off. And let's just review the topic for today. So preparing very young learners for school. Okay, what are we talking about here with that topic today? So today we're going to look at the idea of school readiness. Now, if you were here a couple of days ago when Joan Kang-Shin and Christian were talking about the Welcome to Our World program, they probably mentioned school readiness. You may have picked up on that. So we're going to talk about this today. And not only why it's important, because actually you may be wondering, what is it actually? What is school readiness? Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We're also going to go through a lot of examples and activities of school readiness. So what does it mean? And also, how do we get students ready, okay, for school, okay? And then at the end, we'll do some Q&A, just answer questions and things like that. Actually, an interesting one, because this is the second time I've done this session. I did the same session 12 hours ago. One question from the last session was, what about getting students ready for the transition, maybe from online class back to regular face-to-face class? That is a little bit of a different school readiness question, okay? So what we're talking about today is really, as students go through that 3, 4, 5 years old, getting ready for grade 1 at elementary school, that's the kind of school readiness we're talking about here. But that topic that was asked about, we're probably going to do that in another webinar very soon, okay? So just to be clear what we're talking about with school readiness there, okay? Great. So first question, what is school readiness? What does it mean to you? So in the chat box, can you type in what the idea of school readiness is for you? Okay. So we've got, it's nursery school. It's the idea of nursery school and what they do. That could be true. What else? What does school readiness mean? Kids are ready to learn, says Allah. Okay. Preparation for school, sure. Okay, getting ready for reading, yeah, sure. Could be getting disposed for reading. Being ready to be in a learning environment away from home. I like that one, Angela, that's good. Emotionally and cognitively ready, says Amir. That's a good one, yeah. Preparing kids with life skills, says Michael. Yeah, this is good, right? Holistic development. Ready to communicate. Yeah, I like that one, Dimitro. Okay. Okay, so we've got a few different ideas here, okay? So it's important for us to understand together what we mean by school readiness, because we put ideas about school readiness into our programs, and I'll show you some examples today. But if you're not sure what the definition of school readiness is, then you may not identify those things in the materials or in the lesson plans or in the activities, okay? So let's take a look at what we mean by this a little bit more. So to do this, I went to the industry, right? I looked around within the industry and kind of looked at different ways that people describe it. And I came across two sources that I really liked. One was this particular source. It's from the Australian Early Development Census, which is run by the Australian government. I really like this one because what they do is every 3 years, they do a census of every grade 1 student in the entire country of Australia. And they get about 95% of their students to have responded to this through their teachers, right? And basically they measure the readiness of those students for their grade 1 studies, okay? So the last report was done in 2018. Like I said, they do this every 3 years. So the next one is due out at the end of this year. So this is the most recent one. But within this report, which I can share for you if you want, or you can download yourself, there is a description of what they mean by school readiness. And I thought this one is pretty complete. So I quite like this one. So students being physically healthy and well and able to participate in the physical aspects of school, okay, including gross and fine motor skills, okay? Having social competence, so they're ready to interact with other people, okay? In that way, to be emotionally mature, okay? So they can control their own emotions, they can recognize their own emotions and have management strategies around that, okay? Language and cognitive skills. So of course, you know, your numeracy, your literacy, things like this, memory skills, these kinds of things, right? And finally, communication skills and general knowledge, because the ability to communicate in the language of school, which in Australia is English, as well as the general knowledge to be able to have a foundation to build on, right? That's really important too. So this is how they defined readiness for school. And I quite liked that set of descriptors they used there, okay? So if you want to go and check that source out and look into that a little bit more, that might be useful for you to do as well, okay? So if I was just to summarize it quickly, school readiness is the appropriate development, and this word is important, we'll talk about why later, okay, of what? What do these pictures show? Appropriate development of what? What's going on in these pictures? What's the area of development these pictures show? Physical, correct, very good, Jess, right? So physical skills, right, which is gross motor skills, fine motor skills, coordination, balance, the ability to do all of these things, right? So that's the type of development we're talking about there. Okay, that's one. Okay, there's two more. So what's this one? What do you think this one is? Social, yeah, very good. So this is your social skills, social-emotional skills. And there's a couple of other words in here that are important, right? Emotional management, that's one. And also self-care, okay? We'll talk more about self-care later on, but that's another example of a skill within that subset that we need to work on, okay? And finally, what do you think this one might be? A little tricky maybe? There we go, Angela's already got it. Cognitive, right? Good. So cognitive skills, right? So reasoning, awareness, language, numeracy, these sorts of skills are all cognitive skills, okay? So these are the three basic areas that we want to develop in our students, right? And if you know anything about psychology and childhood development, then these are referred to a lot in the literature of, or the guidance that we get from experts, okay? So on that note, when we talk about appropriate development, there is a set of benchmarks that we should be trying to achieve with our students at different ages. And I usually go to the US CDC website and I get these particular files. You can see an image here of one of the PDF downloads. And here's just a blown up version. So in terms of cognitive, at the age of 4 years old, you can see there's a 4 years old over here, students should know the names of some colors and numbers, but maybe not all, okay? They should know counting. They should start to have an understanding of time and what time means. They can draw a person and they know that the person has different parts to their body. They're not just a blob, but they have arms and a body perhaps and a head, okay? So these are the sorts of things that are appropriate development for a 4-year-old, okay? Now for a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old, those actions or those indicators and benchmarks will be different, okay? So understanding what's appropriate for each age group is really, really important. And we'll see some examples later on, okay? Great. These files, actually, they're PDFs. You can download them. Actually, I might just give them to Emily to send along later as well, okay? Great. But then if we think about the bigger picture of school readiness, right? What's a way we can kind of describe it quickly, okay? And I liked this particular definition, which was this: school readiness is the readiness of the child, the school's readiness for the children, and the ability of the family and the community to support optimal childhood development, okay? So I really like this one. Why do you think I like this one? Why do you think I like, this comes from American Academy of Pediatrics, a definition of school readiness. Why do you think I might like this particular definition? Any ideas? Yeah, it involves all the parties, right? Good, Angela. Yeah, and Jess as well. There's holistic approach. Yeah, exactly. So it's covering all the people who are affected, right? I've taught students, children before, where what I've done has had an impact on the family, okay? For different reasons, which I won't go into. Some have been more than others, but there's an impact on the family and the community when students are ready for schooling. And there's a different impact when they're not, okay? So this is really, really important to look at the big picture, okay? And also this can have a really interesting impact. This is actually from a study done in the US in terms of school readiness and childhood development. And it says investing, it creates upward mobility by ensuring the children are ready for lifelong learning, okay, and long-term success. But also it doesn't just affect the child and then through their age, it extends to their entire family now and in the years to come, right? This is really interesting. They found a correlation between this particular child being ready for school and in later life, their parents and other members of their family having more success in life, right? The question is, what's the cause and what's the effect, right? But there is a strong correlation between these two things, is what they found in these studies in the US, okay? So this comes from the First 5 Years Fund. You can go and check that one out as well, okay? But from these two things, I think we can see, I firmly believe in what Henry Adams says, that a teacher affects eternity. We have no idea where our influence stops, okay? Now, Henry Adams was writing over 100 years ago, so he's a little bit gender biased, right? Of course, teachers today cover all sorts of gender, but the point is, right, you know, we have a lot of impact, not just on our students, but on the rest of their lives and other people they interact with and so on, right? So kudos to all the teachers, okay? Praise, salute to all the teachers, and all of us deserve a pay raise, right? For all the effect we have on the world. So good job. Yeah, and as Simonette is just saying in here, we are parent surrogates for students sometimes, right? We are filling that role, okay? And we'll talk about later about how we can help parents a little bit more as well, okay? Let's keep talking about the pay raise, everybody's saying good job. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna play a bit of a game through the rest of this session, because I like games. So the game is Guess the School Readiness Skill. I am going to show you an image from the student books that are part of one of our Very Young Learner series, Welcome to Our World 2nd Edition. And we're going to take a look and see if we can identify what readiness skills are built into those pages and those activities. Okay, great. So let's take a look at the first one. So in the chat box, let me know. Oh, actually, one little note. Just remember, this is a leveled program. Level 1 is for 3 to 4 year old students. Level 2, 4 to 5. Level 3, 5 to 6. It's an age-based program. Okay, not a language ability-based program. It's age-based. Okay, which all good kindergarten programs should be. Okay, so this one is a level 1. You can see down the bottom here. So this is 3 to 4 years old. So what are the school readiness skills being developed on this page? Okay, you can talk about it specifically. So social, yeah. So a little bit more specifically, what would be the specific social skills going on here? What have we got? Specifically, what skills? Peer work, yeah, good. Greetings, yep. Communication, introduction, great, you've already got them, well done, right? So those are the key things that are done in this particular activity, right? And within the teacher's book, there's a lot of guidance and recognition of those things and what we should be doing with them, right? So here, and this is from the teacher's book, it's a very important skill, greetings and introductions, very important skill for students to learn. Sorry, my touchpad is running out of battery. I just need to plug it in. But having children practice these things to meet children they don't know is really important, as it says there, to build making new friends and build that skill, which they're going to need in school, right? So doing these kinds of activities are really important. 1 second. There we go, I'm plugged in. Okay, so also there's a lot of teacher tips built in here as well. Here's one, take a picture of your students in each of the first few lessons and post them up around your classroom, or if you're doing an online digital class at the moment, maybe make it your screen background when you're teaching class. Have your students' faces in the background of your Zoom screen or whatever program you're using, right? Why do we do this? It's because then students know they're part of this social environment, this social setting. They are part of that, and belonging is a really important need, right? This is a way to get the students engaged in this socio-emotional learning aspect of this particular activity, okay? So taking pictures and posting them or making it into say a background for your class or some other activity, really great way to get this happening in your classroom, okay? Okay, here's some other activities. These are out of the student book that go with those pages, right? Here it's, say, for example, starting really, really simply, because these kids are only 3 or 4, have the students stand in a line, right? And, oh, here we go. Stand in a line and just go through one by one, what's your name? Okay, repeat down the line, okay? Now, as we get the students used to that, now we start getting them more ready for learning activities in other ways, right? So the next one is, okay, now let's get them to turn around and ask the student behind them, okay? So now it's like, hi, what's your name? My name's Andrew. Okay, hi, what's your name? My name's Tom. Hi, what's your name? My name's Jenny, and so on down the line. This is another activity type, and we need our students to learn different activity types to be ready for school, right? Okay, then again, we can do this as maybe 2 lines, and students can ask and answer with each other and then go to the back of the line and then ask and answer and go to the back of the line, right? It's a different style of activity. Okay, so again, these are not complicated activities, but there is learning going on here about how do I do this? How do I operate in this setting to learn? And that's part of school readiness, right? Okay, I also like to go further if I can, right? What I like to do is I like to get my students just doing, as someone mentioned in the chat box there, Goethe said to do a lot of peer work, okay? So I like to get my students in peers doing this. So I might say to them, okay, so we have to do like, hi, I'm Andrew, what's your name? Hi, I'm Tom, right? Nice to meet you. And then maybe give me 5 and then find another student and do it again, okay? And maybe do it with 5 different people. So in my classroom at one time, I've got one conversation happening here, one conversation happening here, another one over here, and so on, okay? So this makes it very student-centered. And what I'm doing is I'm getting a lot more practice, okay? Now, my question for you, remember this is level 1, students are 3 to 4 years old. Do you think this is going to be easy or maybe a little bit difficult to accomplish? If I say, go and ask 5 different people and everybody's moving at the same time, is that going to be easy or is that going to be a little bit difficult? What do you think? And if you think it's a little bit difficult, why? I changed the rules on you. Why do you feel it's a little difficult? Because I think some of us will feel it's difficult, right? Maybe chaotic. There's a good word. Yeah. So what's the solution to chaos, right? Could be time consuming. Yeah, it could be. Children need more instructions. Yeah. We have to demonstrate really well, says Bella. Yeah, good, right? Multi-step directions. Yeah, okay. So for this one, yeah, maybe students don't like to talk. They're too shy, right? So there's a variety of challenges with this, some of which maybe can be solved with classroom management. And that's another school readiness skill, is learning. Students have to learn how to operate in a managed environment, right? But also they have to learn how to receive instruction. That's another school readiness skill, right? So many things that you can slowly practice and develop in your students, right? As you're trying to get them to do these activities. Yes, it can be a bit frustrating because they don't work very well in the beginning, right? But the kids, as someone's saying, Lillian, they do like it when they get the chance to do this. But it does take perseverance to get to this stage, right? You might do all of 3 years old when they're 3 and you're trying to do this and it doesn't work. It might take a whole year before they really successfully do these kinds of activities, but that is developing school readiness, right? Yeah. Daniela says, difficult because I have 35 students in the classroom. That's exactly why I do this kind of activity, right? Because if I can find a way to pull it off, then I've got 16 or 17 different conversations happening at the same time, rather than just one go to the back, one go to the back, right? And there's so much more skill practice going on, okay, if I can accomplish this kind of activity, right? So do your best, right? Try your hardest. Okay, right, moving on. A couple of other things to do with introductions. Do any of you use puppets with your students? And you can do puppet introductions and things like this. Angela says, is that possible on the first day of class? Maybe. We can talk about that a bit later if you want, Angela, but let's keep moving on for now. You do use puppets, great. Marionettes, yep, good. But yeah, puppets are great for modeling dialogue. And even puppets interacting with puppets as a model for your students can be really good. Puppets with storytelling, says Manali, love it. Yeah, so there's a lot of different things you can do. Here it says, do give each puppet a special voice. Now, if you're not at all a voice actor and talented in that way, or you don't think you are, all you have to do is make your voice deeper for one puppet and make your voice higher for another puppet. And then you've got 2 different voices, right? So you don't have to be too fancy. Some of us can do accents and lots of fun things. Some of us can't, that's fine, right? Voice modulation, yeah. You could also just go slower and faster and that could be your puppet's voice, right? So yeah, lots of things you can do, okay? Great. Okay, another one to do, especially with introductions and getting to know each other, is name tags and labels, right? Which also starts to lead on to letter recognition and so on, right? So yeah, a really quick way to make name tags for your students. I use the word art feature, which is built into most Microsoft products, right? Like Word or PowerPoint. And you can just use word art to create this kind of hollow lettering like this. And then once you've got it, then all you need to do is cut it out and give it to the kids and they can color and decorate it. And yay, they've got a nice name tag, right? I wouldn't expect my students to write their name like hollow so that they can color it in, things like that. I just print it, right? I just type up all the names, I print them, we cut, we give, they can color, and they're getting motor skill practice at the same time, right? So yeah, you can let the kids decorate their own name tags like that, right? Can have a lot of fun with them. Very, very simple, right? And a good thing to do maybe on the very first day of class, okay? But yeah, just getting back to what Angela said before, she was asking about that activity. And on the first day of class, is it expected to be able to do all of these things, right? To which I'm just going to go back. So if I jump back here, so that particular screen there from the student book, you're not just going to do that on one day, right? You're going to come back to that and do it repeatedly through the unit. You may come back to it and do it again in, as you go through future units of the program as well. So then you've got time to try and work on this activity and this activity and this activity and this activity as you go through those days and weeks, right? Don't necessarily have to do it all on the first class, but these are skills we can continually practice and the students can get better at, right? Good one. Okay, so let's take a look. We talked a long time about introductions, right? Let's take a look at another one. So here's another student book page, again from level 1, okay? So in this particular unit or from this page, what school readiness skills do you think we're gonna work on here? What do you think we're gonna work on? Cognition, yeah, so cognitive skills, and that's in reference to what, Angela? Life skills, says Anna. Okay, what do you mean by life skills? Physical colors, there we go, good job, Blanca. Blanca or Bianca, okay. Colors, yeah, so colors is identifying colors, a cognitive skill, okay. Daily routines and chores, maybe, okay. Clothes, what about clothes? What thing about clothes is a readiness skill? What thing about clothes is a school readiness skill? Vocabulary, that's true. Yeah, in general knowledge, right? Self-care, says Phil. Yeah, so Phil, by self-care, you mean being able to dress yourself in your own clothes, right? Yeah, so these are important skills that students will need to build up through this particular unit. Okay, my dress is yellow, we're talking about clothing. And if we look in the teacher's book, it's got, a big point here is self-care, okay? So when you ask your students to take their shoes off or put them back on, try and get them to do it themselves, okay? Similarly for their jackets or their hats or their gloves or other things like this, or their zippers or their buttons, which is harder, right? Because that's a fine motor skill, right? But these things are things that they need to learn to do through practice, right? Development, as it says here, comes through practice. Now, when you see someone really struggling, of course, we do step in, okay? And this is where watching your students and knowing their emotions is really important. So with your students, you can see someone trying to get dressed or do something and they're struggling, but you can read in their emotions that they're not too upset yet, right? They're determined, okay? Or, but if they start looking upset or they start getting frantic, okay, now's when I need to step in and help, right? But if they're working through that emotion of persistence and trying and failing and trying again, that's readiness as well, right? So, yeah, as some people are saying, following instructions, positive thinking, trying to finish a task by yourself, being a little bit more independent, this is all tied in with self-care, okay? So yeah, it's really important for students to try these things, okay? And this is appropriate for a 3- and 4-year-old student, okay? Now, something specific like shoelaces, okay, that's different, right? Shoelaces are not really appropriate for a 3-year-old student, right? Hopefully the kids have Velcro or something on their shoes, right? But also things like I mentioned buttons, right? Or some zippers are going to be too difficult for students when they're very young. So again, some things we have to help them with a little bit, okay? I used to do things with my own kids where I would put my hand, for example, put my hand on the zipper, and then they would pull my hand to do up their zipper or push it to do it down, because this is easier to grab than the little tag on the zipper, right? So again, this is, how I get them to understand the zipper process, even if they can't actually manipulate it themselves, okay? So yeah, so just have a think about some of these things, okay? But now the other aspect of this one was colors, right? So within colors, there's a lot of different activities as well we can do. These are from the workbook or the activity book that goes with the Young Learner program. What do you think the point is of this activity here on the left? Okay, so if I look at this one, how does cognitive skill show up in this one? How does cognitive skill, how do we know the students are doing well or not doing well when they do this activity? What do you think? Picture recognition, yes, so maybe they know the word, that's true, okay. Holding the markers, good. And whether, how are they gripping them? Like, is it the fist grip or the point grip, the pencil grip, okay? Coloring, yeah, so are they going in the edges? There's another thing here which is important as well. Let's see if anyone can get it in the next few seconds. Yeah, there we go. Good job, Vere. Matching the right color to the right picture, because if the kids color the banana blue, then we know they're not quite there yet. We need to help them understand something a little bit more, okay? The pants, honestly, could be any color, but you know, the sun is generally yellow, apples are red or, you know, usually red, you know, bananas are yellow, etc., etc. So this is important for the students to recognize, okay? Because again, level 1, they're only 3 years old or maybe 4, okay? Similarly, on the right-hand side, you know, being able to color and decorate and things like this as well. And this one has an audio track. If I circle here, that one has an audio track the students can go through and do. So maybe the dress is yellow, etc., etc. Okay, great. So within this one, a lot of other color recognition activities you can do, or activities involving color. Very, very simple still, because the students are only 3. So having mixed piles of different colors, and then we separate them into different colors, right? So we're recognizing the different colors, even if maybe the different pieces of paper are all sorts of different shapes and sizes. Okay, we're distinguishing between one quality of the paper and a different quality, shape and color perhaps, right? Okay, yeah, Simonette says modeling clay in different colors, great. It's another great example, right? Yeah, okay. This one would work for you, Simonette, is maybe you're scattering different objects, and one of those objects could be different colors of modeling clay around the room, and you get groups of students responsible for each color, and their job is to collect their color, okay? So that's another one, right? I used to work with a teacher a few years ago. His name was Joel. He had a couple of activities that we always used to steal. We were working in a place where we literally had hundreds of soft toys, little soft toys, like about as big as your fist, kind of soft toys. And each of the soft toys had a dominant color, like red or yellow or blue or green, right? And what Joel used to do is he used to get a big sack, and he would put all of the soft toys he could in the sack, right? And he would go into the classroom and he'd lay out 4 hula hoops or 4 zones, right? And as soon as he did that, the students knew what was coming next. And then he'd take his bag and he would just throw the soft toys everywhere around the classroom. And then he'd say, right, I want red here, yellow here, blue here, green here, go, right? And the kids are all excited because the soft toys everywhere, and then they're going around the room, grabbing them and putting them in the right places in his hula hoops, right? Really simple activity. The kids loved it, right? Really, really simple activity. Lets them do sorting, lets them manipulate things, motor skills, all of the rest, right? Kids love that one, right? He had another one as well. And this one, if you thought that one was fun, this one's even more fun and more educational as well. Imagine this is Joel's classroom. So what he used to do is he'd put his students on either side of the classroom like this. So 2 groups of students. And in the middle, he would put something like a row of chairs or something like that. And then he would go over the safety rules, because that's really important for this activity. Be safe, okay? Make sure his students know his safety rules. And then he would take all of those soft toys and he would just scatter them all over the room again. So you've got soft toys everywhere, right? Okay, and then the students are ready and waiting. And then he'd say, go. And what the students had to do is take the soft toys on their side and throw them to the other side, right? You want to get as many of your soft toys onto the other side as possible. So students have soft toys flying backwards and forwards like this, right? And they're having a lot of fun with it. And then after maybe 10 seconds, Joe would be like, 1, 2, 3, stop. And everybody would have to go back, hands on heads, right? And then it would be, okay, let's count. And so we would build counting into this as well. How many red? Let's count the red ones. Go, 1, 2. And whoever had the most on their side is the winner or the loser or whatever, right? Great activity. Kids love this one, but it's important for safety that they understand the rules, right? Very, very active though, right? See what you think of. What do you guys think of this one? I'm noticing chat box is a little quiet at the moment. Are you guys shocked? Right? What do you think about this one? Nice game, fun. Safety is an issue. You've got to be careful with safety, right? Classroom management's important, right? Yeah. So yeah, so try that. You can try this one. We had more comments about this one earlier today, but that's fine. Yeah, so simple yet so fun, as you say, Nicole, right? Like some of the easiest games are the simplest ones, and the ones the kids like the most are just so simple, right? Yeah, Vidya's got a good point. Make sure these sorts of things are permitted by your school. Make sure your school understands the educational benefit of anything you want to do. They may see, someone at your school or a parent may see chaos where there's actually learning going on, right? You need to help educate people as to what the learning benefit of these activities is, right? So think about that one too, okay? Yeah, good one. Okay, so let's move on. This also relates to learning how to learn. The idea of learning a concept, okay? Learning how to learn is a readiness skill for students. So we need our students to pick up a good learning process, okay? And one way to do that is to be really clear and consistent about how we instruct. Because if we know, if we're clear in what we do, we use clear language, we use body language as well to communicate, we model, okay, these sorts of things. And also if we're consistent, we do it the same basic way every time, then what that does is it means there's not so many surprises for our students and they're more ready to learn, and we can build that into routines, okay? So this, for example, from Welcome to Our World is a 3-step teaching routine. 1, 2, 3, why am I writing that again? That shows a good teaching process, very, very simple, can be applied to any concept. This is a concept, as you can see up the top here, 3-step concept routine. And the idea here is that you can go through and teach any concept following a consistent routine that your students will pick up on, and then they will be more able to learn because they know what's happening next, okay? So yeah, so this is the sort of thing that really helps you, yeah, as Ella says, lessens the pressure on both the teacher and the student, okay? And when there's less pressure, we all learn better, okay? Great. Okay, now what about this activity? This is a worksheet. It's from level 2. What's the readiness skill going on here? What's the readiness skill here? Actually, Elena, good point about that activity. What we can do during the pandemic is a little different. That's true, right? Yeah, good job, guys. Using scissors, Shirley. Using scissors and motor skills and small muscles. Yeah, great. So this is a cutting activity, right? Notice it says it's at level 2. That's for 4-year-olds. Using scissors and the coordination that goes along with that is most appropriate to a 4-year-old student, okay? If we go back to that US CDC guidelines for students, starting on scissor use about 4 years old is a really good time to do it. You don't necessarily have to start with real scissors, okay? Someone whose name I forget now was talking about modeling clay earlier. You can pretend to cut clay with your fingers. That works, okay? Students, obviously, you have those plastic safety scissors they can use as well. Cutting clay, cutting thick, something thick and easy to break, like construction paper, something like that. These are all skills of how do I manipulate everything to cut is a really important skill. And eventually we get to, you know, student size proper metal scissors, right? So great, great activities to do with your kids, okay? Now I have a question for you. This activity here, do you see scissor use in this one, in the images you see here on this page? Do you see scissor use here? Not in this one, right? And the reason is because this one is a level 1 activity, okay? So at level 1, we can do this kind of activity, as you can see here, by doing tearing, right? So this is an example of me doing an element of this activity. You can see the video at the bottom. I'm super fast here, but it's like doing this tearing action is really, really good for fine motor skill development, okay, and coordination, right, of students. And then students can stick all those things down. That's a good motor skill as well. And, you know, then you can produce something that looks a little bit like this. I did this with some other people recently. They didn't have colored paper. So I told them to make blueberry trees in a snowstorm, and that's what they made, right? Blue dots and white paper. but you know, this is again just showing them the skills involved in that activity. Okay, but then for this particular activity, this is a level 2 activity. Now, do you see scissors in this activity? Do you see scissors here? And the answer for this one is no, we don't, but we could have, because here we've got a cutout piece of paper. So that could have been cut before by the student, couldn't it? Right? Actually, when I do this kind of activity with my students, here's how I do it. So watch the little video down here again. This is what I do. I start with this, and then I do this. Okay, so this is what I get my students to do. We color, and then we cut, right? So why do you think we do color, then cut? What do you think my reasons are for doing that first? For coloring first and cutting second? Why do I do it in that order? Any ideas why I might do that? Watching the chat box eagerly. Color within the line. Yeah, we're practicing coloring within the line. They do go beyond the lines, that's true. So if you're trying to color a cutout piece of something on the table, I'm going to end up with crayon all over the table, right? So I want to avoid that, right? And also my finished product looks a bit better if it's been cut second, perhaps, okay? And if your parents care about the look of the things that their children produce in class, then that's a nice way to make it tidier and neater, as Rabina says, okay? Yeah. Yeah, as Maria says, yeah, cutting magazines and after you paste in the shape, that's a great one, like making collage, right? Lots of different things you can do there, right? But yeah, making it simpler for your kids and still having something that looks good at the end, right? So this is a good little activity, and keep the table clean. Good job, Shirley. But then eventually, this is a level 3 project, and here you can see, yes, we do have scissor use, okay? So at this stage, students should be able to use scissors for level 3, 5 years old. So yeah, we want them to practice that as part of the craft or the activity. Okay, great. Okay, other ones is like the tactile skills of, you know, building up your tactile skills. This activity is having your eyes closed and feeling objects and determining which they are. Which of the vocab objects am I talking about here? Great little activity to do with students as well. Okay, just for the sake of time, I'm going to skip over to this one really quickly. What sort of readiness skills are in this one, do you think? What sort of readiness skills are here? Any ideas? Cognitive, yeah. So which aspects of cognitive? So memory, good, yeah. So remembering vocab. Patterns, great, yeah, someone said it, I lost the name, sorry. But there's a pattern in here, right? And what completes the pattern? What finishes off the pattern? Okay, identifying animals, says Raina. Yeah, great. So we want to identify the vocabulary for these, but then also match, you know, the large animal with the small animal. Okay, the mom and dad with the baby, for example, right? So within this, there's different cognitive aspects that are going to go on here. Logic, yeah, exactly, right? Okay, so within this one, we want the students to learn about the world around them. Okay, that's the whole point of a lot of our programs, and encouraging students to develop those vocabulary skills and the way things look and sound and behave. So, for example, the lion, how does the lion sound? What does it do? What about the penguin? What does it do? Let's understand those creatures and animals. And eventually, you know, students will learn other things in the future, maybe about people and societies. We're readying them for that later, right? And also the academic skills of being, you know, curious, asking questions, you know, things like this, talking about where these animals live, all of this sort of stuff. These are all great readiness skills to build cognitive and general knowledge skills for our students, right? Big and small, yes, says Raina. So identifying the qualities of those animals as well. Yeah, great. Okay. And then the academic skills of ordering and sorting and numeracy and pattern recognition and all of these things. You can see there's a lot of these elements built in, and also stories having a beginning and an end and a middle, right? And going through and doing that with students as well, okay? So, you know, letting students understand the idea of the order in a story, and then doing an activity where it's like, in which order do these pictures go to make the story? Now, be aware, students can come up with a story for just about any order of those pictures they like. And if they can do it and tell you the story, hey, they're doing even better, right? So, you know, if you've got an old picture book that maybe is a bit worn out and your school's okay with it, why don't you turn it into an activity where you cut up all the pages, right? And have the students reorder everything, because maybe we can't use it as a reading book anymore. It's too old, perhaps, right? You know, you don't need to go and color photocopy everything all the time. Maybe you're just utilizing recycled books for that, right? Lots of different things you can do. And these are all school readiness skills, okay? Great. Okay, wow, we've covered a lot today, but we're gonna have a bit of fun to wrap up because we've got about 10 minutes left, which is right on time. Do you guys know Kahoot? Does anyone play Kahoot here? You guys know Kahoot? We're gonna play a Kahoot. So to play this Kahoot, you need to go to kahoot.it. If you have your phone and you're watching on computer, this is going to be easy. If you're watching on your phone, this is going to be really difficult. I'm sorry. Okay. But if you can, and you're watching, especially if you're watching on another device and you have your phone or another, like an iPad or a tablet or something, go to kahoot.it and we're going to play a Kahoot. If you can't play, you can still see everything that's going on, even if you can't play, okay? So I'm going to switch screens and set up the Kahoot here. I need to go to my website page, which is here. I need to go to my Kahoot, which is here. And we need to set this one up to play. So presenter mode. Okay, friendly nickname generator. Now, you can't choose your own name. We're making this, you know, appropriate and PC. But it's loading the pin now. Here we go. So the pin is 2509906. I'll just drop it in the chat box as well. So you can see the Kahoot on the screen, right? Okay. So what we're going to do is, if you can log in and join that Kahoot. Okay. Thanks, Emily, for dropping that in again. Here we go. We got some names coming in. I'll give you guys a minute or so to get this sorted out. I played in the last game. I'm not going to play in this one. I'm just going to be the facilitator. Here we go. Great. Let's see if we can get 40 people in at least. We got over 300 participants. So, but I know many of you are probably watching on your phone, which means you can't play, right? So I'm sorry about that, but let's see if we can get at least 40 people here. We're getting a lot in here. Come on, 4 more, couple more. There we go. Okay, so we'll start now. If you can still join, even though I've clicked the start button, you can still join by entering the code. You can still join in, okay? And if you get lost along the way, if you're watching the screen, at the bottom of the page, right down the bottom there, in the bottom right-hand corner is the game code. You can always just type in that number and join, okay? Great. Okay, so first we're going to do a test question. If you haven't played Kahoot before, how does it work? So on your phone, you will see some buttons to press. So look at the screen and then answer using your phone, okay? So what's my name? So on your phone, either go red, blue, yellow, or green, okay? Great, here we go. You got 10 seconds. It has a timer. Let's go. Okay, we got way more than 40 people in now. This is good. Okay, time's up. So most of you got it right. Sorry, my name is not Alan. Alex is the name of my son, actually. There we go. Good job. Okay, so that was the test question. There is a leaderboard. We're going to see how the leaderboard is doing. Dazzled Fox, good job so far. Okay, let's go. Real questions. Which school readiness skill is the main focus of this activity? Main focus. Which one? Main focus. What's the main focus here? Good job. Okay. So yes, well done. Cognitive development. You could make the argument, yeah, that there is language, there is motor skill built into this, but yeah, cognitive and counting and math is the main skill there. Okay, great. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Ooh, Dazzled Fox still in the lead, well done. Okay, next one. Now this one you can select more than one and then go submit, okay? So choose all that apply. Which school readiness skills are involved in this activity? Okay. Tyrish, Dazzled Fox, the winner receives global recognition. How's that? Okay, 2 seconds, 1 second. Okay, yeah, so language and cognitive. So if we look at the image again, here's the image. So this is find, that's the cognitive skill, and also say, right? So we're identifying the animals, we're finding the matches, and also we're saying the names of the animals, okay? So that's cognitive and language, general knowledge. Good job. Okay, well done. Okay, let's keep going. True or false? So blue true, red false. Is motor skill a focus of this activity? You're still in the lead, Tyrus. You're doing well. Okay, and yes, actually it is. Now, maybe it was a little hard to see, but for this one, these lines, right? You've got these lines here. This is the motor skill aspect, tracing the lines and following, okay? So that's why this one is true, okay? Great. Okay, wow, we got some movers. Space Skaters moved up, but yeah, we're going strong here. Okay, another quiz. Again, you can select more than one. Which skills are involved? You may choose more than one. Yeah, Jeanette, I'm sorry, the image is a little bit small, isn't it? I don't have control over the image size in Kahoot, unfortunately. Okay, and here we go. Yeah, so this one is actually everything, right? So if we look, again, we've got lines, okay? We've got the cognitive of understanding what this is showing, and also the fact, for example, that there are two boys here that have different, the same emotion, even though they're different faces, different children, right? There's the socio aspect of the what is the emotion, right? Yeah, the language skill of it says there as well, we need to say what it is. So actually we could say that all skills are involved in that activity. Okay, good job. Oh, we've got some movers. Oh, well done. Okay, let's go. Now, according to the experts, at what age is this activity most appropriate? Okay, this maybe is not matching with your opinion, but according to the experts, the pedagogical experts, what's the best age to do this activity? Yeah, some people are dropping in the chat box. Okay, it's actually 5 years old. Now, I know a number of you probably do this activity with 4-year-old students because maybe there's parent expectation or school expectation or your own opinion. But actually letter shape, and especially where it leaves copying and where it leaves tracing and goes to copying, that's definitely a 5-year-old skill according to pedagogical experts in terms of motor skills. Okay, so tracing, sure, but as soon as you hit the blank space, okay, definitely a 5-year-old level skill. Okay, if parents and administrators and other people are saying do this at 4 years old, yeah, sure, but just understand that, yeah, we're not going to get a perfect result, and make sure people know why, right? It's to do with motor skills, it's to do with shape recognition and size recognition and a lot of other things. Okay, great. Okay, new leader. Oh, Super Hawk. Here we go. Okay, let's see. Now, who does school readiness affect? One answer only. Who does school readiness affect? Who does school readiness affect? Angela, that's a really great point about the X-ray. That's a really great point about seeing the bones and the development inside those different hands, right? Yeah. Good job. I think most people have answered. Good job. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're good. Okay, so yes, all of these groups, right? So everybody's involved in this, okay? Great. Oh, dynamic squid moving up. Okay. Now this one's a word cloud. I want you to type into the little box. You'll see, what skill do you think you need to work on most with your students? So is it motor skills? Is it socio-emotional? Is it cognitive? Is it self-care? What sort of skill do you want to work on with your students the most? I'm just curious. All of them. You could type that too if you want. It is true, we're always working with all of them. Okay, the word cloud is coming. And here it is. Let's see. Everything, social, language, motor skills. Oh, biggest one, cognitive. So most people have said cognitive here, okay? And there's a lot of social and self-care skills there as well. That's great. It's good to know what you're working on with your students, but just be aware, you know, we need to work on everything, right? But every one of us will work on something, you know, specific for our own students. Okay, great. Okay, last one. This one is a puzzle. You order the colors in the correct order to make the answer. So what will you do now? Order the words. What will you do now? Oh, I should have given more time for this question, maybe. I'm sorry. Drag and drop. There we go. We got some answers coming in. I'm sorry, I needed to give another 10 seconds for this one. Yeah, I'll help my students the best I can. I hope that everybody will do that with your students as you go forward, right? Okay, let's take a look at the podium. In third place, Flying Zebra. Great job, Flying Zebra. Second place, Super Hawk. And first place is Dynamic Squid. Dynamic Squid, take a bow. Well done. This is recorded. This will be shown globally live. Well, not live, in recording on global. Dynamic Squid. Great job, Dynamic Squid. Okay, good job. Okay, great job to have some fun with Kahoot, right? Okay, so let's jump back to the PowerPoint. Now, just in case the Kahoot didn't work, I actually had these same slides in here, but we don't need them, so that's fine. We'll skip over those. So let's do a quick review. What is school readiness? Okay, school readiness is about being the expert, right? And being aware of what your students need to work on, right? So do everything you can to help your young learners. Be an expert in what they need. Learn as much as you can. Remember that there's a lot more going on than just, say, the English teaching with a program like Welcome to Our World Second Edition. We want to teach English, sure, but there's a lot of other skills that are in there as well, okay? And also, as I mentioned earlier, educating the community and sometimes educating people at your school. As a teacher working with dozens and hundreds of students, you will have a more experience and know a lot more about these ideas than an individual parent, okay? They deal with 2 or 3 kids, maybe, you deal with hundreds, right? Especially those of us who've been doing it for a number of years. So offer your advice in a respectful way, but offer your advice and suggestions to parents to help them understand how best to help their kids as well, okay? It's a great way to influence, and your influence extends, right? Yeah. Okay. Yep. A couple of people asking about Kahoot. Kahoot is a lot of fun with your younger students. Maybe not so doable. Do they have a device to play Kahoot on? But maybe you can play it. You can play Kahoot in a practice mode. You can just do it on the board, and everybody can kind of play together. So maybe you can try it that way with your younger students, right? Yeah, great. Okay, so wrapping up, I just wanted to share, these are the references. You'll see these when you get the PDF of the presentation later on, okay? But thanks for coming along today. I hope this has been useful. I noticed there's a couple of questions in the Q&A box, and we will get to Q&A now. But just before we do, I want to pass back to Emily, in case, Emily, you want to do any quick wrap up and things before we get into Q&A.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Andrew, and congratulations, Dynamic Squid.
Yeah.
Were wonderful. That was a lot of fun. I hope you all enjoyed the session. I know I definitely did, following along. Just a few notes as we wrap up here. We will be sending a certificate of attendance. I do see several questions about that. We do leave a space for you to type in your name. Good suggestion, Vida, I see in the Q&A box about making it a bit longer. We can definitely look into that for you. And if you have any questions, you can always email us at ngl.webinars@cengage.com. We'll send along a PDF of the slides, and those also will be posted on our webinar website, where we have a full archive. We can view recordings of previous webinars. You can sort by different categories for different segments if you teach different ages of learners. So definitely be sure to check that out if you haven't already. And yes, we will be sending along the recorded version to you too. I know a lot of people are watching actually on Facebook Live right now, so nice to have you here too. We are not able to send you a certificate if you're viewing on Facebook Live. But if you do need that, please just email us at ngl.webinars@cengage.com and we can get it over to you, but we just don't have your email information if you're watching on Facebook. And if you do in the future ever want to join us on our Zoom webinars, you can always register through our website to come to another one.
Yes.
We have several more coming up throughout March and April. And yeah, just a reminder, as many of you've seen, many of the examples today were from Welcome to Our World, which is just out in its second edition. There it is. It's a 3-level series for very young learners of English. So if you're interested in learning more, you can visit our catalog page for it. I'm just going to type the URL in the chat box right now, or you can always contact your local National Geographic Learning representative. Great. And that's about all I have. I'm just encourage you to join us in the future.
Yes, very good. So I'm just skipping back to the Q&A page. So yeah, thanks very much, everyone. We're probably going to stop the recording now, but I'm happy to stick around for a little bit.